Welcome to the Fearless Mindset, your home for motivation, empowerment and personal growth. Today we're exploring holding space to be a better friend, parent and partner. So unless you're a therapist, the idea of holding space might be completely new to you. But even without knowing the term holding space, you'll be familiar with some of the ideas. So what does holding space mean, and how can it help you better connect with others? Holding the space simply means being there, completely and utterly for somebody else. It means being completely available to them mentally, physically and emotionally as they process something difficult, experience emotions or work through trauma. By holding space for someone, we make ourselves available to walk alongside them on whatever journey they need to take, without judging them, trying to fix them, changing their path, or making them feel incapable of the journey. While the term holding space is often used in a professional capacity, and is something a doctor or member of the police may have to undertake on a daily basis, it's a skill we can all develop to help us be that support to our friends or family when they need us. So think of a time when you felt most vulnerable. What did you need in that moment? Did you need someone to tell you how to fix it? Did you need someone to point out the mistakes you'd made that got you to that point? Did you need someone to tell you something a bit similar once happened to them? Most likely you simply needed to feel someone was there for you. Holding space is not something that comes naturally to most of us. We often feel the need to downplay problems or brush them under the carpet. We might jump to try and fix them rather than simply listening. By holding space for someone to explore their feelings, sometimes it comes up that there is a completely different issue than they were originally aware of. By learning to hold space for another person, we're opening ourselves to be vulnerable with them and to put another person's needs and perspectives first. In times of emotional hardship, the first, most immediate need is to feel understood. We often want to take away someone's pain, to jump to fix-it mode, but experience and problem solving can come later. By holding space for someone, we can make them feel less alone, and that's a transformative feeling, to know that you can turn to someone for unconditional support when you need it most. To truly support someone in their own growth, transformation or grief, we can't do it by taking their power away through trying to fix the problem for them, by shaming them through making them feel that they should have known better, or by overwhelming them with lots of options or information that they're not yet ready for. We have to guide them, to let them set the pace and make their own decisions, while giving them the unconditional support to feel safe and cared for that they need. So these are my top 9 things to try to remember when holding space for someone. Firstly, listen. You are not here to speak, you are here to listen. Hear them out. Often we hear the first part of a story or a problem. We want to jump in with a question, a joke or a solution. When we do this while holding space, we're cutting off their ability to be heard fully. Try to practice active listening. When they're finished speaking, take a moment, then repeat back what they've said so you can both ensure you've understood. 2. Hold the judgment. And this one works both ways. Do not judge. Allow them to feel what they're feeling and express that feeling, even if it seems a strange reaction to you, or isn't how you would have personally expected them to react. While you might have reacted with anger and they react with tears, both are equally valid. Remember, it's our differences that make us interesting. 3. Don't try to fix it. When we hear someone experiencing pain, our first instinct might be to try to find a way to solve the problem. We are naturally solution-driven, but that isn't the purpose of holding space. The purpose of a holding space is to be there for that person and support them rather than instructing them. Finding a fix will make us feel better. We've solved the puzzle, but it might make the other person feel more isolated with their problem. If you feel tempted to minimise, solve or find solutions, try to transition back to active listening. Remember, they don't need fixing. The only way to get over this pain is through it. 4. Give them the power. When we take decision making out of the other person's hands, we leave them feeling useless and helpless. But when we give them the freedom to make their own choices and find their own solution, we create an atmosphere of empowerment. Even children need the power to make their own decisions, and if those decisions prove to be wrong, to accept the consequences and learn from them. The only time you should ignore the rule is if someone has come to you for help with an addiction. In this deeply vulnerable place, they need support to make the right decisions, to get them off the path they've been following and start to make the right choices. For all other scenarios, keep the power with the person who's sharing the trauma, rather than the person who is holding the space. 5. Check your ego at the door. We all get caught up in this one every so often. We subconsciously feel that having had this problem laid at our feet, we are the ones trusted to solve it. Indeed, we might be uniquely qualified to solve it. We can even feel that our failure to either solve the issue or to adequately make them feel better will reflect badly on us. They won't come to us again if we didn't do a good job. Don't fall for this way of thinking. Remember, their journey isn't yours. I know it's much easier to understand something when we can relate it back to our own experiences or our own way of thinking. There's a time and a place to talk about your experiences, but holding space isn't it. This is the listening place. When you're going through this experience with them, you're only holding their hand. Don't sink so far into empathy that you make their hardship yours. 6. Believe. One of our greatest fears when we open up to somebody is we're not going to be believed. When holding space, showing you believe builds confidence and trust. It makes the person more likely to open up to us about what is going on at a deeper level. It might make them open up about parts they find embarrassing or make them feel very vulnerable. When holding space for someone, it can be helpful to verbally let them know that you believe in what they're saying and that you trust them as a person. Reinforcing their integrity can be a big confidence boost when you're talking about something difficult. 7. Create a safe space. It's one thing to create a place where you feel safe enough to open up, but another step again to create a holding space that is safe enough even if you fail. When people are changing, experimenting, going through hardship, learning, growing, or going through grief, they are inevitably going to make mistakes along the way. When we guide without judgment, shame or pity, we encourage the ability to face fears and resilience, to keep going even when failure is possible. 8. Be emotionally open. When you hold space for someone, you can't prepare. It's often a surprise to both of you exactly what's ended up being discussed. You have to go into it with an open mind. Emotions and reactions are really hard to predict, and in a holding space we shouldn't try and control them, constrain them or limit them. So you need to be open with how you might feel and how the other person might feel. Acknowledge beforehand that this might bring up some difficult memories or feelings of your own. Accept your emotions might even be conflicting with what comes up in the space. But allow that space for the other person to express freely. Remember, holding space is not about exploring your own memories or experiences. So if something does come up that you're feeling deeply or that is bothering you, just take a note of it and put a pin in it. Revisit it on your own time later. And finally, 9. We're all different. Holding space is respecting each person's differences and recognising that those differences may lead to them making choices we wouldn't make. Because you are not going to instruct, you're not going to create a path for the other person to walk down, it doesn't matter if the conclusion they come to is not what you personally would have come to yourself. You are just there to be a support, to help guide them to where they want to be and the conclusion they think is right. And the conclusion they think is right for them. Let go of control and allow them to make different decisions or process in a different way than you would. Be open to that fluidity of the space and what will come up in it. Holding space is something that can seem simple. A handful of you listening might even feel that this is intuitive, that these are things you would naturally do when someone comes to you with a problem. But for most people, it takes a lot of practice and self-discipline. As you listen to the 9 points, there may have been one or two that came up with you. I do that. I want to fix things. I want to create a plan for somebody else. Or I find it really hard not to judge. Knowing ourselves, knowing which ones we struggle with most, are key to helping us become better at holding space for others. When we become stronger at holding space, we become somebody that our friends, our family, our children, our partners can turn to when they need support. Try keeping these 9 points in mind the next time you present with an opportunity to hold space for somebody. See how it benefits the interaction and strengthens the long-term relationship between you. Try keeping these 9 points in mind the next time you present with the opportunity to hold space for someone. See how it benefits the interaction and can strengthen the long-term relationship between you. Going into the world today with optimism, compassion and contentment. Have a great day.